Her sisters have been taken to different section of tent, separated from interrogation area by heavy wool curtain, but close enough that Eleanor can hear Margaret's voice murmuring comfort to Catherine. They have been given warmer clothing, thick wool cloaks, probably taken from supply wagons. She glimpsed them briefly as soldiers led her across camp. Margaret's face still shows tear tracks frozen on cheeks from crying in winter cold, but her expression has shifted from pure terror to something more complex. Comprehension of what Eleanor is trading for their safety, guilt at price being paid, determination to survive, so the sacrifice means something. Catherine clings to Margaret with desperate grip of someone who has seen too much in too short a time. Childhood innocence shattered by 9 days of captivity and horror of understanding what men become during wartime. They are alive. They are safe for this moment. Everything else Eleanor can endure if it keeps them breathing, keeps them whole enough to rebuild some kind of life behind convent walls where Norman violence cannot easily reach. The hidden treasuries, Sir Geoffrey says, voice businesslike as he positions parchment for note-taking. Start there with most easily verifiable claims, so we can establish your credibility before moving to more complex intelligence. Eleanor had spent 9 days preparing for this moment. 9 days of captivity, during which she was not idle despite terror and uncertainty, during forced march from her father's besieged castle to this winter camp, during cold nights locked in supply wagons, during hours of waiting and holding structure before today's confrontation. She had been constructing careful web of truth and strategic fabrication, real information that could be verified immediately, mixed with plausible lies designed to keep her valuable as long as possible, to extend window of time before Norman patience ran out and delayed punishment resumed. My father had 3 primary treasury locations, she begins, speaking slowly and clearly so Geoffrey's quill can capture every detail. The first was at Hay-on-Wye, in vault beneath Castle Chapel. This one your soldiers have already discovered during siege. I know because I saw Norman men-at-arms loading coin chests onto wagons during my transport here. The vault contained approximately 800 marks in silver pennies, perhaps 300 marks in gold nobles, plus various jeweled items taken as plunder during my father's own campaigns against rival Welsh lords. Sir Geoffrey nods, making notes in precise hand of someone educated by monks. This is verifiable information matching our records, which establishes you are capable of providing accurate intelligence. Continue. The second treasury was at Buth Castle, in cave system approximately 3 miles east of fortress walls. Entrance is concealed behind waterfall, not main falls visible from valley, but smaller cascade hidden in forest growth that looks impassable but can be approached through narrow path. My father showed me twice during my education in estate management. Inside cave are approximately 400 marks in silver, 200 marks in gold, plus Welsh jewelry and relics that have not been formally appraised but would command significant value from collectors who prize ancient Celtic metalwork. You know exact location well enough to guide search party? Geoffrey asks, looking up from notes. I can draw a map detailed enough for your soldiers to find it without my physical presence, Eleanor says. I visited location twice with my father. Once when I was 14 as part of learning how our house maintained resources during conflicts. Once again last summer when he moved additional valuables there after your king's armies began their campaign into Welsh territories. I can describe Waterfall's position relative to Bueth's main gate. Forest paths, distinguishing features. Even marks carved into cave entrance, identifying it as Montfort property rather than natural formation. She takes quill, Geoffrey offers, and begins sketching on parchment. Hands steady despite terror still coiling in her stomach like cold serpent. Bueth treasury is real. Her father showed her location as part of preparing her to manage baronial resources if he died in battle. Common precaution among marcher lords whose mortality rates from constant warfare were extraordinarily high. Giving it away feels like betrayal of her father's trust, But betrayal of house already destroyed is small price for her sister's survival. The dead have no use for silver, and her father would understand the arithmetic treasure for daughters' lives is exchange any reasonable baron would accept. And third, treasury? Geoffrey prompts, watching her draw with expression, suggesting professional respect for her precision. Here, Eleanor begins weaving in calculated fabrication she constructed during days of planning. Third was established in cooperation with Flemish wool merchants operating through port of Bristol in location on coast of Severn Estuary. I know general region where warehouse should be located, but not specific building. That information was held by my brother Edmund, who managed our house's commercial operations and died during siege, when Trebuchet Stone struck Keep where he was directing defense. Sir Geoffrey studies her with eyes that miss nothing. You are saying third treasury may be beyond recovery without your brother's knowledge. I am saying that recovering it would require negotiation with Flemish merchant families, which may be more valuable to King William than gold itself. Eleanor responds, meeting his gaze directly. This is the game. Information released strategically, each piece buying time, each delay creating opportunity for escape or rescue that might never come but might. This is survival, not through strength but through intelligence, not through resistance but through strategic cooperation that maintains value while seeking advantage. I know names of principal merchants my father worked with. De Vries family of Bruges, Van der Weyden House of Ghent, Buchert Syndicate controlling wool shipping from Bristol to Flanders. I know terms of their trading agreements, seasonal patterns of wool shipment, credit arrangements allowing my father to move currency between England and continent without your king's customs officers tracking transactions. This intelligence could be used to approach these merchant families and establish Norman control over commercial networks currently operating independently of royal oversight. Or it could be used to expose them to Flemish authorities as smugglers evading proper taxation, giving King William leverage to demand cooperation. Either approach provides ongoing revenue far exceeding value of single treasury, because wool trade generates wealth continuously, rather than as one-time plunder. She is improvising now, building structures of partial truth that will take weeks or months to verify or disprove. Every day spent investigating merchant networks is day her sisters remain safe in whatever convent Fitzwilliam assigns them. Every week spent establishing commercial contacts is week she remains valuable enough that delayed punishment stays delayed. Time is weapon when you possess nothing else, and Eleanor wields it with precision of someone who understands that survival in captivity means extending each moment as long as possible while seeking opportunities that might never come. The bribed Norman officers, Sir Geoffrey says, quill poised over fresh parchment. You mentioned those as well during your initial bargain with Lord Fitzwilliam. That intelligence is potentially more valuable than treasury locations, since it gives us leverage over internal rivals and identifies security threats within our own command structure. I did mention Norman officers, my father corrupted, Eleanor acknowledges. But that information is more sensitive and dangerous than treasury locations or merchant networks. If I give you names, and those knights learn they have been exposed before you can neutralize them, they become actively dangerous to you, to Lord Fitzwilliam, to anyone who might testify against them in proceedings before King's Justices. They would have strong motivation to ensure I do not survive to provide formal testimony, which means they would also have motivation to harm my sisters, to remove witnesses, and destroy my leverage. You are bargaining, Geoffrey observes, but tone suggests approval rather than criticism, recognition of strategic thinking rather than annoyance at resistance. I am protecting my value and my sister's safety, Eleanor says. Once I have given you everything I possess, I have nothing left to trade. No reason for you to continue honoring agreement about convent protection. My sister's continued safety depends on my continued usefulness to your king's administration. That means I must carefully manage when and how I provide most sensitive intelligence, ensuring I remain valuable throughout process, rather than becoming disposable once you have extracted everything. Sir Geoffrey looks at her with something that might be respect, expression of professional, recognizing another professional's competence. You are cleverer than most captives we process, my lady. Most prisoners in your position attempt to withhold everything, trading information piece by piece until we lose patience and apply intensive persuasion. You understand superior strategy. Provide enough immediately to establish credibility, then manage flow of remaining intelligence to maximize your value over time. I was raised to manage barony controlling strategic territory and substantial commercial revenues, Eleanor responds. I was educated by clerks and merchants my father hired to prepare me for estate administration in case my brothers died before producing male heirs, common precaution among marcher lords whose families suffer high mortality from constant warfare. I speak Latin well enough to read legal documents, French fluently enough for diplomatic negotiation, Welsh natively, and enough Flemish to conduct basic commercial discussions. I understand trade law, estate accounting, diplomatic protocol, military logistics well enough to have been genuinely useful to my father's administration rather than merely decorative. I am exactly as intelligent as you would expect Marcher Baron's daughter to be when that baron invested in her education as insurance against dynastic uncertainty. The question is whether you and Lord Fitzwilliam are intelligent enough to use that capability rather than destroy it for temporary entertainment, providing no lasting benefit. Long silence follows while Geoffrey considers this argument. Weighing calculations Eleanor cannot fully see but can partially infer from what she knows about Norman administrative culture and incentives driving individual advancement. Then he smiles. And smile is not cruel, merely calculating. Expression of someone recognizing opportunity. I will speak to Lord Fitzwilliam about structuring interrogation to maximize intelligence extraction while maintaining your capacity to provide detailed information over extended period. Continue working on map to Buell. We will resume formal questioning tomorrow morning after I have briefed Commander on optimal approach. He leaves her alone in tent. Guards posted outside entrance, but no one watching her directly. Calculated gesture of limited trust. Recognition that she possesses no weapons and cannot escape from center of Norman military camp in winter territory miles from any potential refuge. Eleanor continues drawing map to Buell, making it detailed enough to be genuinely useful, accurate enough to withstand verification by search parties, professional enough to demonstrate competence rather than desperate fabrication. And while she draws with steady hands, she thinks about Sir Geoffrey de Lacy, about what motivates him, about how she might use him to protect her sisters beyond immediate agreement. He is ambitious. She recognized it instantly in how he intervened with Fitzwilliam, inserting himself into situation where he had no formal authority but saw opportunity to demonstrate valuable judgment. He wants advancement, recognition, rewards that come from association with successful commanders who can recommend talented subordinates to king's attention. In competitive environment of Norman court culture where younger sons must build careers through service rather than inheritance, someone who delivers valuable intelligence to superiors can rise rapidly through ranks that would otherwise take decades to climb. Eleanor can give him what he wants. The intelligence she possesses, if properly managed and presented, could genuinely advance Geoffrey's career if he is one who delivers it to Lord Fitzwilliam, in ways making Commander look competent to royal administrators. If she can bind Geoffrey's interests to her sister's survival, if she can make him understand that keeping her alive and cooperative serves his advancement better than allowing Fitzwilliam to proceed with delayed punishment destroying her value, she will have created protector whose motives are not kindness or compassion, but calculated self-interest, far more reliable than any altruistic impulse in brutal environment of medieval military culture. It is beginning of strategy, built on understanding what drives men in systems where survival depends on reading power dynamics correctly. It is beginning of hope, fragile and uncertain but real. The possibility that intelligence and strategic thinking might achieve what physical strength and martial prowess cannot. Subscribe to Medieval Survival Skills to understand systematic patterns of violence against noble women that operated across medieval Europe. Patterns you must recognize to survive when power operates without accountability. Because Eleanor's story is not unique. It is the story of thousands of women whose names were never recorded, whose fates were deliberately obscured, whose survival strategies were buried beneath 8 centuries of romantic lies about chivalry and courtly love. This is how the system actually worked. This is the machinery of medieval conquest. This is what happened to daughters of defeated kings. And this is why understanding history's brutal truths matters more than comfortable fairy tales.